Welcome back, guys, to another video. This is High Voltage Mayhem, and this is part 2 of this Zenith radio restoration. So here recently we picked up this old Zenith radio and planned to get it going again. However, we did run into some issues with some tubes. So this is the part of the video where y'all get to see this radio operate for the first time in probably 50 years. So I ran into some issues when buying new tubes. You can see here's the boxes of some new tubes that we got. However, there was a mistake that I made that I would like to share with you guys so that hopefully when you're restoring these radios you won't encounter the same problems I did when you buy one of these tubes. So it all starts with the little tube. Sometimes these tubes when you buy them can go bad. Now this one in particular is not bad, but sometimes they can go bad just sitting there and they can leak vacuum and all these things. And when you buy them on eBay, beware, because sometimes people say they are tested and they work and they are not. So just be very careful when you get tubes, and then that's really all this radio needed for now, because I know you guys were anxious to see this thing working. So in this video, at the end, you will see this radio working. So, in the meantime, we still need to do a recap on this radio where we replace all the capacitors and every component that is bad. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to let you hear what it sounds like today. So without further ado, I want to take you to the tube tester and do a little bit more explaining as to what kind of problems I ran into while I was working on this radio. So, hope you enjoy the video. So it's just a good rule of thumb to actually take your tubes to your tube tester first before you stick them in your radio, because you never know what kind of damage these bad tubes can cause if you just slap them in there and they happen to be shorted out or something like that. Now, we got lucky on this one because I tested everything ahead of time and we determined that the tube was bad. So, we didn't do any damage to the radio. However, that is possible if the tube is shorted. Now, let's take a look at the tube tester. It's always a good idea to have a good calibrated tube tester. So, we're going to go ahead and perform the line test. And that means our needle is right there on the line test. That means this machine is accurate, so we won't get any false readings. Now, between these two tubes, you see, this box is a little older. It's all yellowed out and faded and whatnot, but this tube is actually good. However, this is the 1S5 that I got, and they label these on eBay as new old stock and tested and all this, and oh, look, it's perfect tube, you know, brand new. Well, this tube failed every test on the tube tester possible, and I'll show you that in just a second. So here is the tube out of the radio. This is the bad 1S5, and we're going to go ahead and do a shorts test. So if you will observe closely, this little lamp, nothing happens on 4 and 5. So that means there's no shorts. Now you saw that little flicker, that's okay. As long as the light doesn't stay on, everything is good. Now let's do the amplifier test. The machine is set up to 6, 6, 9, and 28. So that's what we want for this tube. And we're going to go ahead and hit the amplifier test. And bad tube. So if the needle strikes anywhere within this red zone right here, the tube is definitely bad and needs to be replaced. And if the needle strikes in that question mark, I replace them anyways, because that means it's kind of questionable and will probably go out on you. So, a good tube will strike in the green region unless it is specifically specified in the manual that it's going to strike a certain number, you know, dynamic mutual conductance. So, we also have our new tube, that frequency changer, 1R5, so we got that ready. And now let's take a look at the new tube that we got and see how it compares to the original one. So the first thing you want to check when you get a new tube is to check for shorts. Now by doing that, you just move this knob over to 4 and 5, and that will test for shorts on this tube. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. We got a problem. And on 4. So that means we definitely don't want to use this tube. So, this was a brand new tube on eBay. You know, they said new old stock has been tested good, all these sort of things. However, this shorts test obviously indicated that the tube is totally shorted out on the inside. So that would for sure cause damage to our radio and or our tube tester if we tested it any further. So, with a shorted tube, you could even fry a power transformer. You could do all kinds of horrible things to your radio. So that's why it's always a good idea to use this test ahead of time to make sure that your tube is actually going to perform the way it should, because it's not worth damaging your equipment over one little faulty tube. So let's take a look at the new tubes and see what we can do with those. Okay, so once you've tested all your new tubes on your tube tester and made sure that they're not blown up or anything, go ahead and take them out of the box and start replacing the tubes. So right here, our little preamp tube, we've already pulled it out and replaced that one. but I have a more accessible tube that was bad right here in the corner, and I'll show you how to do that. So all you do, just grab the little tube like this and wiggle it back and forth until it just pops out. As you can see, it's just a pin sleeve connector that lines up in that socket, so no big deal. So then, grab your box, your new tube, and just stuff it in. So there's a little gap right here on the corner where there's no pin, and then you'll just align that with the socket, and they do that so you can only put it in one way. No big deal, just line it up and drop it in. And then press it until it clicks down in there pretty good, and you should be good to go. Now, for this radio, that will get us in operation, and that'll get us going again. So, if you want to restore your radio to its full potential, it's a good idea to go ahead and replace the capacitors and all the bad components, because just replacing tubes will get your radio operational, more than likely. However, that won't solve your problems that you'll have from bad caps down the road. So in my next video of this wire recorder, I've got a 1947 Webster Chicago wire recorder. I'll be replacing all the capacitors live on camera and all the faulty components. We're going to test everything to get these things operational again. But if you just want to hear your radio make some noise or play some music just briefly without issue, you can just replace the tubes and it should work. So let's go and take this thing on the power supply and see what we can do. Alright, so here's our old radio all pieced back together and already warmed up for you. So let's turn up the volume and listen to this thing work.
Aaron Green to the backfield, first down at 10. Buck Jones in, stands to the right of Colehausen here at the 45. Gibbs running right, cuts it back, up across midfield. Aaron Green slides to the 45-yard line.
As you can see, it sounds pretty clear.
First down here at, well, let's see, it was awfully close.
They kind of belly bounced it in. They may give him
Alright, now let's see if there's anything else in the stations.
Yep.
Usually not much on AM. Something over there. Not much over this way. Let's see.
Zed again
There's our
stands to the right
station
of
right there.
Colehausen. Green behind.
There's usually something around here. Got a little bit of interference. Got some weak stations in here. My metal roof on the shop usually stops a lot of the stations coming in. There's something right there. So as you can see, this radio is working. And with just a few simple parts, or just knowing how the thing is put together, you can usually determine how these things work and how to fix one. So, well, this is High Voltage Mayhem, and I hope you like this, and I hope you like the radio working now. So if you want to see more videos like this, just subscribe, and I'd be glad to make more content for you. So, there you go, all working, and I hope I'll see you guys later.